Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we are going to cover the ba form. So the ba form is one type of conditional form that translates simply to if, basically. And although it is primarily used to conjugate verbs into the ba form, it can also be applied to adjectives and nouns as well. So in this video, we're going to cover not only the verb conjugation of the ba form, but also the ba form of i-Adjectives, not-Adjectives, and nouns as well. So of course, if we're talking about verbs, the conjugation here is going to be divided into three separate categories, and those three categories are going to be the u-Verbs, the ru-Verbs, and the irregular verbs. So first up we have the u-Verbs, and when we want to conjugate u-Verbs into their ba form, all we're going to do is we're going to take the stem of the u-Verb, we're going to add the character I, and then we're going to add the character ba. So for example, if we have the verb kao, which is the u-Verb that means to buy, we're going to take the stem of that, which is just ka basically, because we dropped that u, that is the hiragana character, and then we're going to add eba. So ka turns into kaeba, and so that means kaeba is the ba form of the verb kao, which means basically if by, kind of weirdly said, but yeah. With our next examples of u-Verbs turned into their ba form, it gets a little bit trickier. We'll use the verb iku, which means to go. If we want to conjugate that into its ba form, we take the stem, we add the character I, and then we add the character ba. So iku turns into ikeba. And notice that the tricky thing here is that even though we drop the u in the ku in iku, we still retain that k sound when we add that character I. So it turns into ke, and then we add the character ba, and then it turns into keba, so it turns into overall ikeba. That itself is probably the main thing to keep a wary eye out for when we're using the ba form with u-Verbs. Just to be safe, we'll do one more u-Verb. We have the u-Verb yomu, which means to read. We're going to conjugate that into its ba form. So yomu, we take the stem, we add the I, we add the ba, yomu turns into yomeba. And so yeah, that's conjugating u-Verbs into their ba form, and now we'll move on to ru-Verbs, which are actually very much easier. All we're going to do for ru-Verbs is, again, we're going to take the stem of the ru-Verb and we're going to add the two characters re and ba, so reba. For example, if we have the ru-Verb taberu, which means to eat, we take the stem of that, which is just going to be tabe, because we dropped the hiragana ru that is spelled with it in its dictionary form. We have tabe, we want to conjugate that into its ba form, we add re and we add ba. So taberu, the dictionary form of to eat, turned into its ba form is tabereba, which means if eat, basically. We need more context, but if eat, basically. Our next example for ru-Verbs, we have the verb miru. We take the stem of miru, which is just going to be mi, we add reba, so miru turns into mireba, if watch, if see. And lastly, we have the ru-Verb aru, to be. We're going to take the stem of that, we're going to add re, and we're going to add ba, so aru turns into areba. So yeah, that's pretty simple for the ru-Verbs. And now lastly, we move on to the two irregular verbs, which as per the norm are the verbs kuru and suru. There's no legitimate explanation for why we conjugate them this way, that's why they're called irregular, but the ba form of kuru is kureba, and the ba form for suru is sureba. That's just something that you'll have to commit to memory to be able to use them in their ba form, basically. And so that means we're done with verbs. Now we can move on to adjectives, and we'll start off with adjectives in the i-Adjective category. And in order to conjugate i-Adjectives into their ba form, again, we're going to take the stem of the word, we're going to take the stem of the i-Adjective, which means we drop that final I at the end of them, basically, and we're going to replace that with the three characters ke, re, and ba, so kereba. So, for example, if we have the i-Adjective atarashi, which means new, we're going to drop that I at the end of it because we just want the stem, so atarashi is what we want here. We add kereba, so atarashi turns into atarashi kereba, and that's just going to translate to basically if new. Another example, if we have the i-Adjective oishi, and we want to conjugate that into its ba form, we just take the stem, which is oishi, and we add kereba to it, so oishi turns into oishi kereba. And as one more example for i-Adjectives, if we have the i-Adjective samui, which means cold, and we want to change that to its ba form, we take the stem, we drop that final I, we add kereba, so samui turns into samu kereba. And so that's what we have for the i-Adjectives. Now we move on to the na-Adjectives, but we kind of get lucky here because as with some other grammar patterns, the not-adjectives and the nouns have the same guidelines. So when we want to take a not-adjective or a noun and turn it into its ba form, all we have to do is take the stem of that, which is just the word itself, and we add the phrasing de areba. So that's 4 characters: the character de, the character a, the character re, and the character ba, de areba, right after the not-adjective or the noun. So for example, if we have the not-adjective genki, which means energetic basically, we want to change that to its ba form, all we really do is turn that into genki de areba, because all we have to do is add that phrasing afterwards. Another example, if we have the not-adjective taisetsu, we want to change that to its ba form, it just turns into taisetsu de areba. Then we move on to nouns. If we want to change the noun sensei into its ba form, we just add that phrasing right after it, so sensei turns into sensei de areba. And one more for nouns, if we have the noun hannin, which means criminal or culprit, we want to change that to its ba form, hannin de areba, and that's just going to be if culprit or if is the culprit or something along those lines. And so yeah, that's how we use the ba form, or not necessarily how we use it, but how we conjugate words into the ba form. After this video, we'll cover how to use the ba form to mean specific grammar constructs or patterns. So do look forward to that. This is absolutely an important video and lesson, as are all the verb conjugation lessons, because you will definitely hear them in everyday conversation and will need to know what they mean.